Hey, sixth graders, Mr. Ronan here. I have another video for you guys, and we're going to focus on the circulatory system yet again. If you remember back to my most recent video, I think it was my most recent video, I talked about the 4 different parts of our blood, being the red blood cells, white blood cells, plasma, and platelets. And I also talked about the 3 blood vessels that our blood travels through within our body, those being arteries, veins, and capillaries. So this video will tie all of those things together, and I will focus on the path that blood takes to travel throughout our body. And it's a pretty neat cycle. And I think once we really understand our blood vessels and what kind of blood travels through them, this all makes perfect sense. And I'm going to do my best to go take this slow and as descriptive as possible so it makes total sense to you. So having said that, up here I have a picture of a heart, and real quick, you're gonna have to bear with me here. This is a new app that I'm using, and it allows me to draw pictures like this heart and write letters like R-A-L-A, all that stuff. Unfortunately, I have to use the mouse on my computer to do this, so the handwriting's a little shaky, as you can see. The drawings aren't very good, so you're just gonna have to, like I said, just bear with me here, and I don't want to hear any complaining in class when you guys get here telling me how bad of an artist I am. I don't want to hear it. All right, this is a difficult app to use, so I'm just gonna fight through it. All right, so on the screen you see a heart. Of course, you guys know this is not what our heart actually looks like. Our heart only looks like this on Valentine's Day. In real life, our heart looks more like I always thought it looked like a round fish. If you want to go ahead and open up a new tab on your own and look up what a human heart looks like, by all means. I'm not going to make you guys do that. I'm not going to do that right now. As you can see, everything that's on my screen, out of respect for you guys, and I think some of you guys would be upset if I pulled up a picture of an actual human heart, because it's not the prettiest sight in the world, as you would find out if you looked up a picture of it. So anyways, we're just going to stick with the picture. And within this picture, we see a heart, and within that heart, we see 4 little boxes, and these represent the 4 chambers of our heart. Now I want you to remember that word chambers. So the 4 chambers of our heart. We have the right atrium, and I'm using acronyms, by the way, just because these are small boxes and it was hard to fit all the letters in there. So this is our right atrium, our left atrium, our right ventricle, and our left ventricle. And I want you to notice that our atriums are on the top. All right, so we can remember A on top, V on the bottom. That's what we'll have to do. Atriums, if we're thinking in football terms, atriums are the wide receivers of our heart. Okay, the atriums receive blood. The ventricles would be the quarterbacks of our heart. Okay, because they pass blood to different parts in our body. They pass blood away. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with the left ventricle. So I'm just going to draw a blood vessel coming out of the heart and going towards the body. And I'm going to do my best to write body here. Not too bad so far. Not too bad. So this blood that's coming from the heart, well, it's now leaving the left ventricle, or leaving the heart, and it's going towards the body. And since this blood is traveling away from the heart, I know that this blood vessel must be an artery. Remember, away, artery, they both start with A. So that's our memory cue for that. And this artery is going to take blood to different parts in our body, so that different parts in our body, different cells, different muscles, different tissues can get the oxygen and nutrients that they need in order to function properly. So in class, I hopefully remember that arteries carry oxygen-rich blood. And one way we can remember this in comparison to veins, let's compare the words artery and vein real quick. Artery has 6 letters, vein has 4 letters. Since the word artery has more letters, it will also have more oxygen. So arteries carry a lot of oxygen. And at the end of an artery, we're going to draw capillaries. Okay, so these are these little web These little web-like vessels, they're very small. And if you remember, we talked about in class, they're about one red blood cell thick. Okay, so oftentimes capillaries are so small and so narrow that red blood cells, which we can't see with the naked eye, all right, we need a microscope to see red blood cells. Red blood cells have to pass single file through these capillaries because they're so small. So, anyways, what happens is the left ventricle sends blood to an artery. The artery takes this oxygen-rich blood away from the heart towards the body, and it goes into these little capillaries. What happens in these capillaries is the blood that's traveling through these capillaries will release oxygen. So oxygen, I'm just going to use the color red to represent oxygen. That oxygen, I'm not sure why this is happening. That oxygen will leak out of those capillaries, and it'll go to different cells in our body, different muscles in our body that need that oxygen. So that oxygen that we breathe in will eventually work its way through our heart, through arteries, through capillaries. It'll make its way to muscles and cells and things like that. So that's the good news. Our muscles and cells and tissues and various things like that will get oxygen to help keep them going. The bad news is capillaries will now get carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide is not good. Our body wants to get rid of that carbon dioxide. So the capillaries say, fine, I'll take you. I'll take you. So these capillaries will now take in this carbon dioxide, where it will then travel through a vein. So I'm going to try and move my mouse here, see if we can zoom up. I don't need to save time with keyboard shortcuts. Thank you very much. All right, so blood leaves our heart through an artery. That oxygen-rich blood makes its way to capillaries. And I'm going to actually mark capillaries. I'm going to write C. Why does it keep doing this? My goodness. I know. All right. I told you guys this was going to be a process. All right, now we got it. So I'm marking capillaries. So that oxygen-rich blood makes its way to the capillaries, and that blood will travel through the capillaries, and oxygen will sneak out. Unfortunately, well, this is good, I guess, for our body, because our body does need to get rid of this stuff. Carbon dioxide will sneak into our capillaries, and that blood will take that carbon dioxide through a vein. And remember, the vein is going to go back to the heart. So arteries take blood away from the heart. Veins take blood. Veins will take blood to the heart. Veins take blood to the heart. So I'm going to go ahead and connect this back up. So it's going to loop all the way up to the right atrium. Remember, atrium, that would be our receiver of our body. Notice how the right atrium is receiving blood. Unfortunately, this blood is carbon dioxide, blood has a lot of carbon dioxide in it. That right atrium does not want that carbon dioxide going through there, so it passes it off to the right ventricle. That right ventricle says, I don't want to deal with this carbon dioxide either. So our right ventricle sends that blood with carbon dioxide to our lungs. And as you remember, when we breathe in, we're breathing in oxygen and a little bit of carbon dioxide, but mostly oxygen. When we breathe out, we're breathing that carbon dioxide out that our body made. Our body makes carbon dioxide, goes through our heart, goes to our lungs, and we'll breathe that carbon dioxide out. So then it's no longer in our body. So what happens in our lungs? We breathe in that carbon dioxide. What also happens in our lungs is we breathe in oxygen. So the capillaries in our lungs will take that oxygen, and we're continuing the cycle. It's going to take that oxygen-rich blood to the left atrium. Remember, the atrium's our receiver. It's receiving oxygen-rich blood. That left atrium's like, man, I love all this oxygen. I'm going to be generous. I'm going to pass it off to the left ventricle. And we start that cycle all over again. So as review, our heart has 4 chambers. Right atrium, left atrium are 2 receivers. Right ventricle, left ventricle, the 2 quarterbacks. So the left atrium, it sees the body wide open. So it passes that oxygen-rich blood to an artery, which then takes that blood all the way to the body. The body gets rid, or the body rather, takes the oxygen from the capillaries to help those cells survive, to help those muscles survive, to help those tissues survive. And it also makes a trade-off and gives away a lot of carbon dioxide. Now these veins have a lot of carbon dioxide because the body just passed that carbon dioxide off to the veins. The veins then take all this carbon dioxide, takes it back to the right atrium. The right atrium's like, I don't want to deal with this. Pass it off to the right ventricle. The right ventricle's like, I don't want to deal with this either. So he's going to pass it all the way back to the lungs. The lungs are like, you know what? Fine. I'll get rid of this stuff for good. So we breathe that carbon dioxide out. And the lungs think, man, I did all that work. I breathed that carbon dioxide out. I deserve a prize. So it breathes in. So our lungs will breathe in that oxygen. Lungs are like, you know what? I feel good. I'm going to be generous. I'm going to pass that oxygen back to the heart where it all started. So it passes off to the left atrium. Left atrium says, you know what? The left ventricle works so hard all the time. I'm going to pass that oxygen off to the left ventricle. And there's the cycle. It just goes over and over and over. And for you 11 and 12-year-olds, this has been going on in your body your entire lives. So it's pretty crazy. And it takes about 20 seconds for blood to go from the left ventricle to make its way out to the lungs. So it's about a 20-second cycle. So imagine how many times this cycle has happened in your life. Pretty crazy. So anyways, I hope this video was helpful. Maybe cleared some things up. If you have any questions, specific questions that maybe stumped you here or made you scratch your head, please write them down for me and bring it to me in class and we'll have a discussion about that. Again, I appreciate, and if anything, it just shows me that you watched the video, you made a lot of effort outside of class, and you took responsibility for your learning, so I'll be really excited to hear any questions that you still have. All right, awesome. We'll see you guys in class.